Waiting, we'll get started with today's session. So, Acyutha Prabhu will present. Hare Krishna. You can start, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you all for joining. We will start with a small bhajan, Jai Radha Madhav, and after that we can start the summary of chapter 5. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Mataji, I think you need to get to the next slide. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Giri Varadhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Radhe Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Radhe Jayo Mahaprabhu Jayo Mahaprabhu Jayo Mahaprabhu Jayo Mahaprabhu Jayo Mahaprabhu Jayo Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Narsimhadev, Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimha, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Mataji, can you also open the Mangalacharan? We can quickly do the Mangalacharan prayers. Mangalacharan prayers are basically the prayers we sing to get the blessings of the previous acharyas, of Srimati Radharani, of Krishna, of Chhat Goswamis. So when we do any auspicious things, we pray. So these are prayers, pranam prayers, because we are going to do something auspicious, which is reading Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakmalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you again for joining today's live session. So I will please share the screen. So the topic is summary of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. So usually I pick up a chapter, a verse or chapter based on the chat that is going on. I thought chapter 5th chat is going on. It got over 1 day, 2 days before. By the time I realized it was too late. So we will today discuss entire chapter 5, a summary, and through an acronym action. Personally, I like having acronyms because it's easier for me to remember things. I remember 1 week before I had a Bhakti Vaibhav exam, and there was one verse which was Yad Kirtanam, Yad Smaranam, Yad Ikshanam, Yad Vandanam, Yad Shravanam, Yad Aranam. So, and that order, again, I was missing that order. And that verse was supposed to be by-hearted for the exam, memorized for the exam. And I knew if I miss that order, I will lose marks. And I was memorizing these verses with a devotee. And then when the devotee's chance was there to recite it, even he was struggling to have that order in place. And then we immediately said, okay, let's remember the acronym KSI VCA. So first line was KSI, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Ikshanam. Second line was VCA, Vandanam, Shravanam, Aranam. So I just felt that it is easier. So same thing, I just thought today morning that maybe we can have something on similar lines so that we can remember. At least if someone asks what is chapter 5 all about, you can at least say action. It's all about action. Right? And the chapter name is also such. Srila Prabhupada purposely gave the chapter 5 as Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. Right? So we'll just go through that chapter. Again, thank you so very much for joining today's session. Okay, we'll start. Slideshow. So we will. So why chapter 5 is Karma Yoga, Action, Krishna Consciousness? And we see this photo also, Srila Prabhupada. Right, Srila Prabhupada is a renunciate, right, sannyasi, but he's working in Krishna consciousness. That's the chapter all about. That how we can work in Krishna consciousness, but still be detached. That is the chapter. Okay. So the first 6 verses is about a question that is asked by Arjuna. So he's asking what is better, whether work in devotion is better or renunciation is better. And one might think that renunciation is easier. Okay, you don't have to think anything, just no work, nothing, just, completely detached. But that is not easy. Similarly, work in devotion is also not easy. Both have its own difficulties. Like, for example, there was once a king. I'm forgetting his name, but yeah. So that king, once he decided that he wants to give up everything. So he gave up everything and he went to a jungle to basically undergo renunciation. And he was meditating. But again, his mind was getting frustrated. He was not able to concentrate. He was not able to meditate with full concentration. So while he was contemplating that exactly what is happening, why is this happening, a sage came. And a sage came, and the king asked that I'm trying to meditate, because he saw the sage. He was very poised, equipoised, calm, composed. And when he sat down, he was very focused. So this king asked the sage that I'm struggling to concentrate. I'm struggling to focus. I'm not able to understand what I'm supposed to do. So the sage said, okay, first tell me, who are you? I mean, who are you exactly? Who are you? Like we ask, right? Someone asks a question. First, we will want to know the background. Based on that, we want to answer, right? So the sage asked that, who are you? So the king immediately, who that king now is no longer a king. He gave up everything. That king immediately said, you don't know me? I'm the king. I was the king. And I was the king of so and so place. So and so many people were under me. And I had occupied so many villages, this and that. He started saying all till 5-10 minutes. He kept on saying. And then the sage said, this is the reason you're not able to focus. Because although physically you're given up everything, but mentally you are not being able to. Your consciousness is still in that kingdom, right? So physically you are here, but consciousness is back in the kingdom. So renunciation, we see, is not very easy. Similarly, work in devotion. We'll see work in devotion is still easier to do. But work in devotion is explained in 3rd chapter with the example of Janak Maharaj. So once some sages and some sannyasis, they came to Janak Maharaj and they asked that, how is it possible that you are taking care of the kingdom, but yet you are able to perform a devotion service? How both of these things you are able to do very easily with good balance? So the king said, oh, it's not very difficult. So they said, oh, how? We also want to learn that. So Janak Maharaj said, you come tomorrow, I will tell you the answer, how I am able to handle both devotional service and and also my material life, managing the kingdom. So they said, sure. So they came next day. And then as soon as they came, Janak Maharaj said that first you have prasadam. So right before any talk and all, first let's have prasadam. For Western audience, we do sometimes like this. First we have prasadam and then we have talks. So Janak Maharaj said, first prasadam, let's have prasadam. So he says, yes, why not? So they all sat. They were offered some seats, and one by one they sat. And before they were about to start, they looked up, to pray for that. They got by Krishna's mercy, they got prasadam to honor. And as soon as they looked up, what they saw is there was a sword, a sword was hanging on top of their head, and it was tied with a very, very thin string to the ceiling. So a sword was hanging on top of their head, and it was tied to a ceiling with a very thin thread. So they looked up and they all got scared that they don't know when that sword will come down and break their head. So they were very scared, and they asked Janak Maharaj, you sure you're asking us to sit here and eat prasadam? Janak Maharaj said, you don't worry. Yeah, just have prasadam. Everything will be all right. I am giving you the guarantee. So they looked at each other and they thought, okay, Janak Maharaj is such a great Vaishnav. So if he's giving the guarantee, that definitely, we should be safe. And they started having prasadam. And obviously, prasadam, they immediately, they finished the prasadam very fast. And then, when the prasadam was over now, then they asked, okay, so tell me now, what is the secret behind handling both the things together? Then Janak Maharaj said, yeah, I will give you the answer. But before that, tell me, did you like the prasadam? They said, yes. And then he asked, okay, were you able to digest the prasadam? They said, yeah, you were able to digest the prasadam. Then he finally asked that, were you able to focus on the prasadam while you were having the prasadam? They all looked at each other and they said, how can we were, our consciousness was continuously on that sword, which was hanging on top of our head. So Janak Maharaj said, just as while you are having prasadam, you are able to concentrate on the sword at the top. Similarly, when I'm doing my material life, I'm able to concentrate on Krishna. It just depends where is our consciousness. So that time, as they were very, very attached to their body, that is the reason they were their again concentration was going towards the sword. Similarly, Janak Maharaj was trying to say that my attraction is towards Krishna, and that is whatever I'm doing, I'm able to still my consciousness is still at the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is the question now Arjuna is asking, what is better, right? Whether work in devotion is better. That's what fighting in the Kurukshetra war. Because at one time, Krishna says that knowledge is important. Indirectly, he was saying Tyaga. And in one level, he was saying that work in devotion is important. So in third chapter, he already explained. But again, Arjuna is asking that which is better, whether work in devotion is better, or on the right hand side, renunciation of work, complete renunciation, Tyaga, Sannyas is better. And here in between Arjuna, he's thinking, question mark. Right. So now we'll go through all the verses of Bhagavad Gita. That's how we are going to summarize. And through that, we'll see what are the learnings that we can have. So the first is action, and A is asking what is better. So now text 1. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" Personality of Godhead replied, "The renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya." We will discuss about Sankhya a little bit. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the result of both. So here Krishna is saying that both will take you, achieve the results of both. So you will achieve the result either through karma yoga or your Sankhya yoga, because at the end you reach to Krishna. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service. Correct? So analytical study is a Sankhya yoga. And who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. Now, verse 6, merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. Right? But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Correct? So here Krishna is answering the first question that Arjuna is asking. He's asking that what is better, work in devotion or renunciation? And Krishna is saying that both are good, but work in devotion is better than renunciation of work. Right? And sometimes we might think that, for some people might think, work causes bondage, so let's not do it. Correct? But devotee doesn't see like that. He sees everything in Krishna, in connection with Krishna. Right? I mean, last week I was hearing a class by my spiritual master, and he was mentioning a very beautiful story. He said that Jada Bharat, before that, Bharat Maharaj, he got the body of the deer. Why? Because he got compassionate towards the deer. Correct? He became compassionate towards the deer, and because of that compassion, in the next life, he became a deer. And then, when obviously by Krishna's mercy, he remembered he was a deer. What was his previous life? And then in the next life, he became Jada Bharat, and he remembered all his previous life of a deer and also of Bharat Maharaj. But now in this case, he knew that because of the compassion, he had that deer body. So that doesn't mean that he decided, okay, no more compassion, because the Vaishnava by nature is compassionate. So when he was asked to pick up that palki of that Rahuguna, King Rahuguna, and while he was walking, he saw there were many ants, and he was still trying to protect those ants. So their compassion was still there. So just because that compassion in his previous birth caused him bondage, that doesn't mean he gave up that compassion, that quality of Vaishnava in his later life. But he understood that how it has to be applied in the correct sense. So similarly, work might cause bondage if we are not connected with Krishna. But if we have correct understanding of that work and how it needs to be connected, then actually that work causes liberation. It causes purification. We will see that in the future section. So, Sankhya, material world. Sometimes we might have a question that when we are understanding Krishna consciousness, why we need to understand the material world, right? And one devotee was asking this question in one of the class he was giving. It was very nice, the way he explained. Everyone is different way of reasoning. Obviously, the reason is same, but giving different angles to the understanding, right? So he asked the question that why we should understand the Sankhya or material world, right? Why we need to understand the material world and Sankhya. Sankhya means what? Basically, it means that how the material world is composed of 24 elements, correct? And that includes earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then ether, after that, ear, nose, like that, then smell, touch. All this, in all 24 elements are there, correct? So that's how the material world is composed. So it's composed of 24 elements. That's Sankhya philosophy. So why we should know Sankhya philosophy? So one of the reasons one can give, that's what I was thinking when I was hearing the class, is that so that we can come out of that material world. Because if we don't understand the material world, how can we come out of that material world? Correct? So, and also other way to look at it is everything is connected to Krishna. So material world is also connected to Krishna. So we should understand how that material world is composed of. And then this devotee answered, he said, yes, these all answers are correct, but there is another reason. And then he said, let me give an example of a cake. And that's why this photo is there. So how many of us love cake? We all love cake, right? I mean, most of us, I'm hoping, right? Especially if it's a birthday party. And in Sunday school, I remember Sundays, whenever there is a birthday party and kids are invited only, but somehow some parents will sneak in and try to get some bite of that tasty cake, right? So we all love cake. However, if we are, instead of offering the cake, we are offered the ingredients of that cake. Let's say we are offered sugar in one bowl, we are offered all-purpose flour in one bowl, then we are offered cream in one bowl, and then we are offered, let's say, carob powder, plain carob powder in one bowl, and then we are told that, okay, this, you like cake, right? So why don't you have this each one bowl at a time? None of us will even touch either of those things. Sugar, just having sugar, nobody likes it. Just all-purpose flour, no. Cream, too heavy, right? I mean, I remember 2 months back, we had a program at one of the devotees' house, and we had ordered 3 cans of heavy whipping cream to make something, and somehow only 2 cans were used. And while leaving that place, the devotee told me, Prabhu, please take this 3rd can. This heavy whipping cream is too heavy. I won't be able to have it. So basically, cream also, if you are just offered a plain cream, you won't have it. Correct? So then this devotee said that same is the material world. Material world looks very nice after combining all the elements. But when we understand the individual elements, what it is made of, we understand this actually very, it doesn't have much substance. However, spiritual world, every particle of it is also spiritual. But in material world, when things are combined together, then it looks beautiful. But individually, it has no value. Like a finger has no value if it is not connected to the body. A ear, nose, eyes has no value if it is not connected to the body. So Sankhya philosophy actually teaches us that, through that Sankhya philosophy teaches us that we need to be connected to Krishna, because each one of us is part and parcel of Krishna, right? So that's what first talks about, that how we can understand work in connection with Krishna. So this gives a hint of Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then the question comes, but how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga? How to perform work with respect to devotion? That goes to our next section, which is verse number 7 to 12. How we can perform Krishna, how we can perform work in devotion is by being conscious of Krishna. That's what Krishna is mentioning in the second section of chapter 5. That you perform the Karma Yoga, you perform the work, but always be conscious of me. Yeah. Someone wants to volunteer to read this section, these 6 verses?
Yeah, you can read, Prabhu. So it's from verse 7 to 12?
Correct. This is the second section.
One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful reaction, by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with the body, mind, intelligence, and even the senses, only for the purpose of purification. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled.
Yeah. So here it explains that how a person who is working in connection with Krishna, I mean, he's conscious of Krishna. Correct. So that's how the Nishkam Karma Yoga is performed. That is without attachment, surrendering the results to the Supreme Lord, unaffected by the sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Right. When we went to Mayapur, I mean, we never saw lotuses. Recently, 2 years back when I went to Mayapur, there was one pond on which the lotus leaves were there and the water droplets were there, and it was untouched. Just remembering this verse, 10th verse. So that's how a Nishkam Karma Yoga is performed. That's what Krishna is saying here. So we see here that Parikshit Maharaj, right? Parikshit Maharaj, before putting the snake on Shamik Rishi, he was performing work in devotion, correct? And when he realized that now it's time to, because he came to know that 7 days are remaining and he will leave his body, he didn't, for him, taking that change from work in devotion to renunciation, complete renunciation, was very easy. Why? Because he was devotee of the Lord, right? So we see here, Atmajaya Sutagara Pashu Dravina Bandushu Rajye Javi Chavi Kale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife or his partner, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. So we see here how everything before, when he was performing work in devotion, he was connecting everything to Krishna, and later on also he was when he took renunciation, he just wanted to hear about Krishna. So here again, Krishna is mentioning that how you can perform work in devotion. Another example is Ambrish Maharaj, correct? Work in devotion. Dhruv Maharaj didn't want any kingdom. Kachan Vichinvam Apidivya Ratnam. He says to Krishna that I was looking for a broken piece of glass, but what I've got is immortal diamond. And then Krishna says, now you have asked, so I have to give you something. So, and he said that you perform you take care of the kingdom, but in a mood of servant of the servant, basically as devotional service. So again, we see work in devotion. So now there are two things, right? Krishna, getting attracted to Krishna, and second is sometimes getting attracted to matter. Chaitanya Prabhu says a very nice three levels of three kind of people, how they see matter. So for a materialist, matter only matters, he says. For impersonalist, matter does not matter. Correct? Impersonalists, basically they see that everything is false. So for them, matter is illusion. Matter does not matter. And for devotees, he says, matter matters if it is connected with Krishna. And if it is not connected with Krishna, then matter does not matter. So matter matters, but if not connected with Krishna, then matter does not matter. So yeah, so this is basically a small table to understand that what is our situation, where are we. So at one level there is matter, another level there is Krishna. So if we are attracted to matter, but we are detached to Krishna, then who we are a materialist, right? We are attracted to the matter, but we have no attraction to Krishna. But if we are not attracted to matter, basically we're detached to matter, and we are detached to Krishna also, right? So those kind of people are? Those are impersonalist, right? Neither attracted to matter nor attracted to Krishna. Once one devotee was giving a class, and he was mentioning there are 4 kinds of atheists which are there. 4 kinds of atheists. He said one atheist is a philosophical atheist. So what these people will do is they will bring Krishna down to our level, that is living entity. So living entity is here, Krishna is here, Krishna is supreme. So what philosophical atheists will do is they will bring Krishna to our level. Then second atheist it's called covered atheist. Covered atheists are like impersonalists. They will bring living entities to Krishna. Basically, they will say that we all can become God. Correct? We are all God. So They'll bring living entities to Krishna. Third kind of atheist is psychological atheist. I mean, this devotee was mentioning. Psychological atheists are those kind of people who understand that Krishna is supreme. They understand that living entities are servants. But because of the conditionings and shortcomings, now and then, due to some reason, they will take Krishna out of the picture and they'll think themselves as the controller and they will act as controller, right? And these are people like, especially I can tell for myself, and I mean, we are at that kind of in the same boat, because we understand that Krishna is supreme. We understand that we are the living entities and we are servants of the Lord. But now and then, because of the conditionings, we act as if we are the controllers, right? So that is the third kind of atheist. And the devotee mentioned that the fourth kind of atheist is transcendental atheist. These are people who know that Krishna is supreme, who know that we are jivas and we are servants, but still they don't want to agree to that. Why? Because that will cause a rasabhas. Those are devotees of Vrindavan, basically the citizens of Vrindavan. They love Krishna, but some people love Krishna, some Yashoda Maiya and Nanda Maharaj, they love Krishna as his son, as their son. And then we see the friends of Krishna, the Gopas, they consider Krishna as their friend, not as the Lord. So they know at one level that Krishna is supreme, but they don't want to accept it. Correct? So anyways, so devotee was mentioning like that. There are four kind of people who don't believe Krishna is supreme. So detached and so impersonalists are detached to matter, and impersonalists are also detached to Krishna. Third is people who are attracted to both matter and Krishna. Correct? So those are mixed devotee, Sakam Bhaktas. They are attracted more to the matter and also to devotees. I mean, also to Krishna. And fourth is obviously a pure devotee who is detached to matter but attracted to Krishna. So, and this is what Krishna is mentioning in the section from 7 to 12, that we need to be conscious of Krishna, and that's how we can do our work in devotion, detached to matter and conscious of Krishna. So the first we read was asking what is better. That was A. C was conscious of Krishna, and then is T. T is three doers. Who are the three doers that is handling everything? That is explained in verses 13 to 16. That is T for three doers. Okay, we'll go to the next section now. Anyone wants to read?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. You can
Hare
read.
Krishna.
Hare
Text 13. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Text 14. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this enactment by the modes of material nature. Text 15. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Text 16. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything. As the sun lights up everything in the daytime.
Yeah. So here, thank you, Mataji. Here, Krishna is mentioning that there are three doers that Jiva has to understand. So one is embodied living beings controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions. Correct. So one is the Jiva itself. Correct. So he is also a part of decision making. And if one understands that, then he resides happily in the city of 9 gates. 9 gates are basically the 9 holes, 2 ears, 2 nose, mouth, like that. And second is the modes of material nature. They are also acting. But those material modes, how are they acting? Because of the Supreme Lord's power. So Supreme Lord, under Supreme Lord, there is material nature who is acting on the living beings. So there are three players here, three doers. One is the soul, second the material nature, and Supreme Lord. And one has to understand the connection between the three, right? Some people think that, oh, I'm the doer, I'm the only person. Or some people think that, oh, it's Krishna only. I mean, he only decides everything, correct? But when the nation is destroyed, one understand that actually all three are connected. So soul desires, super soul sanctions, and material nature fulfills under the superintendence of super soul, correct? So soul desires, super soul sanctions, and material nature fulfills it. We'll go to the next one. So this is what Krishna is mentioning again in the 3rd chapter, same thing. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So these are the people who think that they are the only doer and no one else. So spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So here in 3rd chapter, Krishna is already mentioning that those people are fools who think that they are the only doer and material nature doesn't take part. However, material nature is the one who fulfills the desire of the soul through the sanctioning of super soul, which is Krishna, right? But at the same time, soul also plays a role. Why? Because soul is the one who is desiring. Okay, we'll now enter the 4th section, that is ideal person, which is I. So we completed A, C, T, and next is I, that is ideal person. So here Krishna will mention all the qualities or what it means to be an ideal person, of a person in Krishna consciousness, at the same time a person who is doing work as well. So that is the definition of an ideal person. And here we will see 17 to verse number 26. We'll go ahead. So we completed A, C, T, and now we have I. Okay. Who wants to read?
Plus 15 plus
I can read again if there's no volunteer.
15 plus
No,
16
no. Yeah.
plus 17 plus 18.
Text 17. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless, like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Before giving up his present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins achieve liberation in the Supreme. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mataji. So here the definition of an ideal person, a person who is in Krishna consciousness but is also doing work in devotion. And especially the 18th verse, the humble suggests by few virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision, a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Correct. So that's what actually Krishna consciousness brings us to. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that that Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he took when he became the king, entire world was under one flag. Entire world, because basically there was no disparity between people. But nowadays we see that everyone wants to have their own flag. Even in their home also, there is not one flag. Everyone has their own agendas. Correct. So why? Because we don't have the true knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada said that I want to build a house where entire world can stay together. Correct. So that's the vision, again under the same flag. Once Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was invited some ministers to his farm. Basically, it was ISKCON's farm, and he was managing it. And then the ministers asked Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj that what exactly is ISKCON offering? And then he said, can you see there? There were people from Africa, there were people from New Zealand, there were people from Australia, there were people from India, from America, from various parts of the world, and they all were together serving in the farm. He said, tell me a place where you will see all of them together in cooperation, serving for a common purpose. Then he said, this is what Krishna consciousness brings to. Why? Because the humble is by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision, a learned gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Because we see everything, a Vaishnava sees everything as part and parcel of Krishna. Right? But when we read all this, we might think that if we do work in devotion and we don't think of the results, then what might happen is we might not be passionate or not be able to perform our work. One might think like that. But we should understand that Krishna mentions that the work that you're performing is for your own purification. That's what Arjuna was also told, that you have to do this. In 11th chapter, Krishna says that if you don't do it, I'll already kill everyone. But for your benefit, you will become glorious if you kill them. You are just becoming the instrument. So basically Krishna here explains that in the previous verses also, he explains that the work we are doing is because for our own purification. Sometimes we might we heard about materialists. They think that Prakriti Kriya Manani, where it was mentioned that a person might think that because of him only things are happening, right? And we see that in once a farmer, he went to God and he said that I'm very tired after farming the entire day. And God said, why were you tired? Who got the seeds? He said, you. From where you got the land? He said, you. From where are the rains coming? He said, from you. Then he said, the animals that you're using to till the land, from where are they coming? He said, you. And then Krishna said that then you are only putting seeds under the ground, and for that you are saying you're tired. Your 90% of the work is done by me. Right? So here a person, Prakriti Kriya Manani Kune Karmani Sarvasha. A person might think that he is doing everything, but actually it's been connected with the material nature and with Krishna. Krishna is actually doing most of the work for us. Correct? The breathing also, we don't realize that we are breathing, but it is so difficult, right, to create a robot. We understand that. So it's Krishna's mercy. And here the person, and 17 to 26 explains an ideal person who understands these facts, and then he's doing work in devotion, right? He's doing work in devotion. So Now, the next 3 slides, what I want to show is the contradiction about certain things in our scriptures, and that will connect to a person who is a materialist versus a spiritualist. Both are doing the same thing. We are talking about work and devotion, then ideal person, right? So how to understand a person who is in Krishna consciousness and the other person who is not in Krishna consciousness, but he is doing the same work. Let's say in the office, both are doing the same work, but one is in Krishna consciousness, one is not in Krishna consciousness, right? That contradiction. We'll see that similar contradiction material in the scriptures as well, but we can understand how we can reconcile it through this perception. Based on the perception, the definition of certain things changes. Like we see material world, right? In Bhagavad Gita, material world is defined as Mamopetya Punarjanma Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. Material world is defined as a place which gives miseries, right? Napnuvanti in Mahatmana Samsiddhim Paramam Gata. And there in the translation it is mentioned, to this material world which is full of miseries, correct? Which is full of miseries. So material world in Bhagavad Gita is explained as temporary world which is full of miseries. However, by Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, it is mentioned as Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, right? And Prabodhananda Saraswati said, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, when one becomes Krishna conscious by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, for him the entire world appears happy. A person who is struggling in the material world, for him it will be, material world will be Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam, full of miseries. Why? Because he is doing the work for thinking that he will be able to enjoy the result, but that doesn't happen, correct? That work creates more and more bondage. But if you are doing the same work in Krishna's service, then that entire world appears happy, correct? So that's the contradiction. That's what we are hearing between a person who is not working Krishna conscious versus a person who is working Krishna conscious. Family life. Srila Prahlad Maharaj says, Prahlad uvacha tat sadhu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyam asatrahat hitvatma patam griyamanda kupam vanam gato yad dharam ashrayeta. So here he says that temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. So here again, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that temporary household life is actually a deep dark well or a cold well of suffering. But then we see in 3rd canto, 14th chapter, verse number 18, that it is mentioned, Sarvashramam upadaya swashramena kalatravan vyasanarnavam atiyeti jalayaner yatharnavam. And it says that on the 2nd line, one can cross the dangerous situation of a material ocean by living with a wife. So here it's mentioned that household life is better. It's mentioned in the purport, if you see. Of the 4 orders of human society, the student or brahmachari order, the householder or grihastha order, the retired or vanaprastha order, and the renounced or sannyas order, the householder is on the safe side, right? So here we see that Srimad Bhagavatam, same book, Srimad Bhagavatam left 755, right? Srimad Bhagavatam 3:14-20. But both have different definition of family life. Depends on how the person is perceiving or acting in that family life. If one is thinking of enjoying mentality, then it will be a dark well. But if one is thinking how we can serve Krishna through that grihastha ashram, then it is the safe side. That's what it's mentioned. This is, I think, Devoti discussion 3:14-18. Okay, so last we will see one more, material body, right? Material body. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya apnoti na sadhu manye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asa deha. Kleshada, da means to give, and klesha basically means suffering. So body, material body is defined as kleshada, that which gives pain, right? We all can understand at least once a day, I mean, throughout the day, some or the other part of our body gives pain by some or the other thing, right? This, once devotee was mentioning, this earlobe also, if pressed very, I mean, one might think, oh, earlobe, it doesn't give pain. Even that can give a lot of pain, right? So the devotee was mentioning one of the class. So basically, we see that every part of the body will lead to some amount of pain, right? So it's mentioned here. In the third, maybe we can read the entire translation. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engaging in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activity of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. Right. So basically, here material body is defined as kleshada, that which is the cause of suffering. Right. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, at other place 761, Prahlad Maharaj says, Praduvacha Kaumaram acharet pragyo dharmam bhagavataniha durlabam manusham janma tadapyudravam arthadam durlabam manusham janma. It says that the human body is most rarely achieved, Prahlad Maharaj is saying. And although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Correct? So we see that how material world can be seen in different ways. Family life can be seen in different ways, and material body can be seen in different ways. What is the difference? It's the consciousness. Might be the action is exactly the same, but the consciousness is different. On the left hand side, the consciousness is that of enjoying, and on the right hand side, the consciousness is that of serving Krishna, working in relationship with Krishna. Right? So what we read is ideal person. Correct. So we have completed till now 4 sections. The chapter 5 is divided into 6 parts. 4 parts are completed. A was asking what is better, work in devotion or renunciation of work. C was how one should perform devotional service, or one should perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. One might ask that question. So Krishna says that be conscious of Krishna. C, conscious of Krishna. Then third is the 3 doers: soul, super soul, and material nature. And then I is the ideal person. What is the definition of a person who is performing such a Nishkam Karma Yoga? Ideal person. Next is 2 verses, 27 and 28 verse. That is overcoming lower modes. And this is overcoming lower modes through Ashtanga Yoga. So the previous talks about how one can attain liberation, or an ideal person attain liberation through Nishkam Karma Yoga. This talks about attain liberation or overcoming the lower modes through Ashtanga Yoga. Verse 127 to 28. Maybe I can just read. Text 27 to 28. Shutting out all external sense objects. This is Ashtanga Yoga. Keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the 2 eyebrows. Suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils. And thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. So becomes free from desire, fear, and anger, that is lower modes. So one can overcome the lower modes through this Ashtanga Yoga. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. But when we see this definition itself, it is so tough, right? I mean, shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the 2 eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, controlling the mind, sense, and intelligence. I mean, it is so difficult to control, right? Bhakta Roman has mentioned that it reminded him of Madhya Leela 22, chapter 22 and verse number 50. Right? So we see that it's very difficult, right? Controlling the mind. In fact, when we do meditation, first thing comes is the office work or the family work, correct? And here we are talking about controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, all 3. But when we do that, then we can overcome the lower modes. But this is through Ashtanga Yoga, which is very difficult. This is verse number 27 to 28. And the last section of Bhagavad Gita, which is the 5th chapter, which is the last verse, that is neutral, not affected. How one can be neutral against the pangs of the material nature, or not affected by the pangs of the material nature. That is verse number 29. This is one of the most important verse of entire Bhagavad Gita, and especially chapter 5. It's also known as peace formula. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam yatva mam shantim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So now we don't have to close our senses or control mind, intelligence, and sense objects, inward and outward breaths. One has to just understand three things, be conscious of three things. One, that Krishna is the supreme controller, Krishna is the ultimate benefactor, and Krishna is the well-wisher of all living entities. Then one can have the same result as what we read earlier, right? And one will be neutral from the pangs of the material nature, right? And will not be affected by the pangs of the material nature. Yeah. So someone wants to read the purport. This is the last purport. Every chapter conclusion, last verse, Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful purport in the sense that he summarizes the entire chapter. So
I can read.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The conditioned souls within the clutches of illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. Men should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord because he is the proprietor of all planets and demigods thereon. No one is greater than he. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.7, the Supreme Lord is described as Tam Ishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram. Under the spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all they survey, but actually they are dominated by the material energy of the Lord. The Lord is the master of material nature, and his conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including the great demigods, are his subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Maybe there is one more paragraph.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah. Maybe someone else can read if they want. Yeah.
I can read, Prabhu.
Sure.
This 5th chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Absolute, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God as his fragmental part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to the desire to lord it over Maya, and that is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, or it is an arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial toward anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage of Brahma Nirvana. The eightfold yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is served. There is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. But these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can award peace to the human being. It is the highest perfection of life.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good.
So basically, how we can achieve neutrality, peace, that is Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. And Bhakta Roman has okay, he mentioned about the 22 verse number 50, Bhante Lila. Someone or other, if one is attracted, somehow or other, if one is attracted to talks about me and has faith in instructions I have set forth in Bhagavad Gita, and if one is neither falsely detached from material things nor very much attracted to material existence, his dormant love for me will be awakened by devotional service. Thank you, Prabhu. So yeah, so basically we completed the entire summarization of chapter 5. So just to quickly recap, chapter 5 is divided into 6 parts, right? And so the first 6 verses is Arjuna is asking what is right, what is better, either work in devotion or renunciation of work. Then verse from 7 to 12 talks about how one can perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, that is conscious of Krishna, being conscious of Krishna. Third, that is verse number 13 to 16, talks about the 3 doers, soul, super soul, and the material nature. And then verse number 17 to verse number 26 talks about ideal person who has understood the Nishkam Karma Yoga and is doing it. And then verse number 27, 28 talks about how we can overcome the lower modes of nature, specifically through Ashtanga Yoga. And verse number 29 is neutral, or how one can get not affected by the pangs of material nature. That is a peace formula. Okay, so thank you for patiently listening. I will stop the sharing. Yeah, if anyone wants to share anything, we have 3 to 4 minutes. If anyone wants to share anything, something that stuck to you, as Vaishnav Babu says, or any reflection you want to share.
I just wanted to comment, this is Asra Madhav Das Prabhu. Just wanted to comment that you have nicely summarized chapter 5. Very nice analogies, that 2 by 2 you made, the Krishna and matter, attached and attracted, detached and attracted. That was a nice one.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, some of the flowcharts I've taken from there's a book. It's called Book Bhagavad from Sutta Prabhu. So if you want, you can.
From which Prabhu?
There's a book Bhagavad. It's name of the book. So I saw that. Yeah. Very nicely it explains, right? What is our situation, right? Whether we are connected, we are attracted to matter, attracted to Krishna. How, if based on that, we can know where are we, or where we have to reach.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else wants to add anything or reflection?
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the very, very nice class. It was a beautiful summary. I like the way you covered all the verses. And 2 things that were very interesting is the way you explained how actually the action is carried out by the modes of material nature, we are in one sense not really the doer, and the example that you gave was very apt. Thank you for explaining that very nicely. And also towards the end, as you were wrapping up the chapter and we went through the peace formula, the final verse, you said you don't have to do all these breathing and concentration and so many things. You just have to remember 3 things. I think that was very wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhu, this is Asray Madhav Das again. So there's a comment on YouTube. It is little bit, it might be agitating, but if you can respond, that will be good. So much of what you suggest is doctrine or dogmata formulated by reference to sacred texts. I cannot confirm what you suggest, nor can I deny it. These are matters of faith, but are presented as facts.
Yeah.
Should I read it again, Prabhu, so that, or you got it?
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada said that to not have faith in scriptures needs more faith than to have faith in the scriptures. People nowadays have more faith in Big Bang Theory, which explains that everything has come from nothing. And if we think deeply about it, it is more difficult to have faith in that than to have faith in the scriptures. But because of the way the material world is progressing, we are tuned to now have faith in Big Bang Theory more. But that just Krishna says that the more Shravanam and Kirtanam, the more hearing and chanting we do, we develop that faith. And when we take association of devotees, when we chant the holy names of the Lord, when we have prasadam, when we come to temple, these are some of the things by which our faith develops. So, yeah. That's it, Prabhu.
Yeah, we don't have any more online comments.
Okay, yes, Prabhu, it's already 8:30 as well.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that question also. It just helps us to remind us again and again that, knowledge is so important, right? This knowledge actually helps us to destroy the doubts that we have. Again, it's explained in Bhagavad Gita. How we can destroy the doubt is through cultivation of knowledge. So thank you so much for asking that question.
Yeah. And it is also very reassuring, Prabhu, that there is a supreme person out there who is looking after us. In times of distress, if we have to call someone when no one is around us, it is very consoling, right? If we think that everything came from nothing, then whom do you go to basically when you are in distress?
Yeah.
Right?
Everything needs a hook. There should be something to get clutch or basically hooked on to something.
Yeah.
So for us, is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Vancha Kalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Acyutha Chaitanya Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We can end here. Thank you all so much for joining. Hare Krishna.